Hey, everybody, this is John Bruni, and we have an incredible guest with us today. The Honorable Rob Wilkins is a two-time presidential appointee to the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition, a retired U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant, and a fitness expert. A native of Linden, New Jersey, Wilkins works as the military evangelist at Sightline Media Group. Now, some of his key military assignments included serving on the staff of the Joint Improvised Explosive Device Defeat Organization. Now, try and say that 3 times fast. The Legislative Liaison Office, Secretary of the Air Force, where he was responsible for organizing and coordinating and escorting congressional delegations worldwide. An avid advocate for military veterans, Wilkins is a lifetime Air Force Association member, lifetime member of the Veterans of the Foreign Wars, lifetime member of the American Legion, and lifetime member of AMVETS. In addition, he is president of Rolling Thunder, Washington, D.C. Incorporated, president of Redcon1 Foundation, focused on assisting military families needing financial assistance, and senior military editor for Muscle and Fitness. His military decorations and achievements of awards are so numerous, we can't list them all. All I can say is this is one incredible, life-changing human being. Thank you for your service, and welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Wilkins.
John, thank you. What a warm introduction. But, after all that, the best thing you can call me is Dad. With my
Yes.
son and my wife, it's just being that's the best title I can get. But thank you for all those other titles and acknowledging all those other things. So thank you.
Oh, so great to have you on the show today. And kind of want to go back to the very beginning. How did you begin your career in the military? Was this something that you always dreamed of or growing up knew that you wanted to do? Can you take us back to that?
I think it's actually in the blood. That's a great question to start with as well. We're able to trace our military family history back to the American Revolutionary War, where my 6th great-grandfather, Pate Mellor, served. So we are part of the Daughters of the American Revolutionary War. We have our number, our DAR number. And I guess from that time going forward, from every war, every conflict, someone in our family has served, with my cousin, George Washington Fro, being killed in Vietnam, to my cousin, she's serving now and as an Army major. I served 26 years in the Air Force. The greatest honor I think you can have, besides being a parent and being married, is serving your country. So I think it's just in the blood.
Mm-hmm. And so it's something, when you hear that background, I mean, just what an incredible legacy that you are carrying out in your service. And so you had this passion for serving your country, but you also have had a lifelong passion for physical fitness. How did your journey into physical culture begin? So we have here's the military side of you, and then we have this whole other side as far as physical fitness. What does your journey look like in getting into physical culture?
So my journey started with physical culture with playing basketball. When I grew up, we played outside to dark came. We were outside playing football and hide and go seek and doing all these things. But I really enjoyed playing basketball. So being skinny, I was being shoved and pushed around a lot. So I decided I'm going to take care of that. One of my favorite players back in the mid 70s was a guy named Kermit Washington. And he was a proponent of weight training. So I thought Kermit Washington went from being an okay player to an all-star. And he said, basically, that's because I did weight training. So fast forward a number of years, I started weight training. And then I got to play basketball for my military stations all over Europe. So it was a great thing for me to pick up this great hobby, this sport, but it also saw the benefits. I went from being able to make layups to being able to dunk the basketball, from being shoved around to shoving people around, and to becoming like one of the enforcers. I was known as getting a lot of rebounds and scoring a lot of points. And so I thought, if weight training can do that for basketball, what else can it do and help me with? And I thought it brought me strength and confidence, and it just made me feel good. And fast forward 20 years, Kermit Washington became my neighbor, and I shared that story with him about how he inspired me to become to lift weights, to be a better basketball player.
That's incredible, because there was a time when there were certain sports they really, we talked about weightlifting. You're going to become muscle bound. You won't be able to do the things that other people can do. And it's great to hear those stories like that. It kind of reminds me, I'm from Michigan originally, so I grew up watching the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys. And it reminds me of the whole Jordan rules, that Jordan got pushed around and then he went to the weight room and he was not going to get pushed around anymore.
Right. So my wife is friends with Jordan's trainer, Tim Grover, and he always would talk about the intensity that Michael took in there. Just as intense as he was in the basketball court, he was on the in the gym, making sure that he became fit and agile and having that strength, because he knew that at the end of the year he was going to go through those Detroit Pistons who were not going to just give him a layup. They were going to knock him down, but he got right back up, and now look at him. He's probably recognized as the greatest basketball player of all time.
Absolutely. I don't like the Bulls. I didn't like Jordan, but I can acknowledge he's the greatest. He is the GOAT.
Yes.
There's nobody that's going to ever do what he did. So you've got all this stuff going on. How do you balance? Because this is an interesting thing. And now I even think about your life now, being a dad and everything else that you've done, but especially back when you were full-time in the military. How did you balance your fitness passion with your passion to serve your country? I mean, how do you balance the military and physical fitness?
Another great question. And actually they go hand in hand, because your body is your weapon. The more fit you are, the stronger, and the stronger you are, you're able to sustain your deployments. And you have to be prepared for what could be the worst day of your life, when you might have to face somebody in battle. That it's your strength, it's your training, it's your preparation that will get you through that tough day. So most people, I actually think all people who are serving in the military, they work out, because it's part of you. It's part of being in the military. You have to be fit to fight. So that is one of the problems we're actually having with recruiting now. There's about 71% of kids between 17 and 24 cannot serve our military. And out of that 71%, about 30+% has to do with obesity. Children are just not in shape. And unfortunately, I think COVID's going to increase that number substantially. So we're going to have a hard time fitting our military, which becomes a national security issue. If you can't man your forces, how do you defend your country? So it's a national security risk. It's a military readiness risk. So I think that we're really going to have to do all we can to help promote the importance of physical fitness going forward.
Yeah, because again, and this is nothing against gaming or anything else that our culture is into, but I designed a set of push-up equipment that's called Neural Grips, and you have to balance and everything, and it makes the push-up harder. But what I found is that a lot of students today cannot even do like push-ups on their knuckles. They can't do a standard, regular, strict push-up, and it just all the more signals how important it is that we get our kids and our students just to do basic stuff anymore. We're not talking about CrossFit or anything else. A lot of people cannot do a standard push-up. They have to get on the knees or something else, and it's just, again, it's from lack of activity. I love that you were talking about growing up, you play till it's dark. That's how it was with us. It's like, we're going to go out and play football, whatever it may be that day. You play until, your parents basically say, it's time to finally get in, it's time to go to bed. And, because culture has changed so much, I think it's more and more important, the message, especially that you have been sharing throughout the years about physical fitness, how important it is. I want to ask you something. This intrigued me so much to learn about you. Mm-hmm. What was it like to meet the legendary Weider brothers? And how did that whole meeting come about? I mean, Joe Weider, from the time I was a kid, of course, I'm going to be 50 this year. When I was a kid and you had your homemade weight set with the cement weights wrapped in plastic, you did all those things, but the supplements were always, the Joe, the Ben Weider supplement brand. What was it like meeting those guys, and how did that meeting come about?
So it was with a letter. I wrote to Ben and Joe. I was stationed in Prumair Station, West Germany, 1983. And at that time, of course, there's no computers. We had limited radio signals. we didn't have cell phones. So you found yourself with a lot of free time. So after military training, a lot of times you just watched television, listened to music, or you wrote letters. So I thought, I'm going to write these guys a Christmas card because I have nothing to lose and I don't expect anything back. So I wrote them a both Christmas card and I received one back from both of them. And I thought, that's cool, but it's peculiar too. I just didn't think I would hear back from them. But particularly with Ben, because he had been a veteran in World War II, serving in the Canadian Army, he had an affinity for military folks. And Joe he basically also said, because you serve our country, and even though I'm Canadian, I'm really supportive of the military. And they wrote me back, and Ben said, once you come back to the US, let us know, and we will look at seeing how we can work together. So I left Germany, moved to London. From London, I went to Italy. But then in 1989, I got stationed in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So I wrote Ben a letter. I told him I'm back. He said, I remember you. And right off the bat, he made me his military liaison. So in that role, what I did was anything doing with the military, WEDR, the IFBB, I was the go-to person. So we started a number of programs where we donated fitness equipment and supplements and t-shirts to military bases. We did great causes related to fitness and health, and we worked with the Special Olympics. And then about after 4 or 5 years of that, Ben said, I have something for you. I want you to write for Muscle and Fitness. So he gave me a column. And then after that, I wrote for Flex. So we just had all these amazing opportunities. And then I think one of the cementing part where I really feel they're just such great people was after 9/11. They came to me and said, we want to recognize military people. So what are some of the ideas? And there had been an idea of donating tickets, but we never instituted that idea. Well, after 9/11, we did. And Ben at first said there's going to be 500 tickets given to military folks for free, but that turned into about 1,200 that for the Mr. Olympia right after 9/11. And then he would sit with me and hand out these tickets so he can shake the hands of the military folks. And he wanted to personally say, thank you for your service. And then we also instituted bringing the honor guard. They open every Mr. Olympia. They have since 2001. It's a tradition that continues to this day. And I remember often looking at Ben from the side, even though he was Canadian, he'd have his hand at his heart. And when the national anthem played, he said, gets me every time, he'd get emotional about it because he knew that young men and women around the world are doing all they can to preserve our freedom, and freedom is not free. So there's a long answer to a very short question.
Oh, it's a great answer. And I just love the patriotism that is shown by those guys. And, they were legends. Like I said, we would not have what we have today. I talk about taking the old liver tabs. I had all that WEDR stuff. It was just,
right.
It was a great time. And I got to talk about this whole thing, writing for Flex. What was that like? Because back in the day, and I want to talk about the future of this too. I had a stack of muscle mags. We had Muscle and Fitness, Flex. Mm-hmm. You would look at these things, they would inspire you. You cut out pictures, put them in the weight room back in the day. That's where you got all of
that. Yes.
That's where you get all of your basically learning was from those. Other than that, I had the one book later, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. But if you really kind of wanted to know, there weren't a lot of teachers back in the day. In fact, I remember when I was in school for football, they had us on the old Nautilus equipment. So that'll tell you
Jones, yes.
how much stuff has changed. What was it like writing for Flex magazine and Muscle and Fitness?
So at first it was, I thought it's not possible because I didn't have a writing background. And so when Ben told me about it, he says, well, why don't you just go to the community college and take a writing course? And he just says it so matter-of-factly, but he shows so much belief in you. Like, how can you not do it? So that's exactly what I did. I signed up to community college for I took 2 or 3 courses. And then I told my professors that I'm not just writing, I already have a column in a nationally published magazine. And so they thought, how is this happening? How weird is this? This is something that writers and journalists strive for, and 5, 10, 15 years into their career, they're hoping to get one, and you already have it before you're not even a journalist. But it's the luck of the draw. That's just what happened to me. And I remember meeting, again, lots of military folks at the Arnold or the Mr. Olympia, and they would just say, "We're proud of you because you serve in the military and you're writing for this iconic brand." And just last week, a friend of mine, Dan Solomon, the chief of Mr. Olympia, the president of Mr. Olympia, he gave me the position of the senior military editor for muscleandfitnessonline.com. So I'm going to continue it.
Amazing. And just what do you think is the future for muscle magazines, for just in general? Do you think the online thing is going to really catch on with people? There's just so much information, so many different places. What do you see as the future of education for physical fitness as far as magazines and books go?
Well, I do think it's tough because there are so many resources. Like everybody in the gym nowadays is almost like a videographer. You see so many young people in the gym with their cameras, and sometimes you get in their shots and they're like, excuse me, you're in my shot, because they're filming and they're showing with their social media network what they're doing in the gym. So I think that's a great thing, but often you're looking for true and tried sources. So not everybody who, shows or promotes a fitness routine is going to give you the best results, but you have to find what works for you. So high reps might be great for some, low reps for others, but I think an iconic brand like Muscle and Fitness, they'll always be around. They have I think their audience reach is about 17 million.
Yes.
So they still will be an impactful figure and a go-to source for the fitness and bodybuilding culture.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I wish we could camp out there for a minute and just talk about this whole idea of not everybody who is a social media influencer can be a good coach, because it's one thing to be able to do it, but it's a whole other thing to help somebody else along the way and show them how to do it. And sometimes people don't even know what worked for them in the first place.
It's almost like going back to when we talked about Michael Jordan. He was he was the GOAT, but I'm not sure how good he would have been as a coach.
Yes.
He just had this drive and this intensity. Same with Kobe Bryant. They had this drive and this intensity about them, but I'm not sure if they can impact that on somebody else. Some other players, they might not just have that same drive and determination and the strong will like Michael and Kobe.
Absolutely. So working with the IFBB, which had to have been really, really cool. Oh, yeah. Do you have any good stories about the whole working with the International Federation of Bodybuilding?
Well, first, I'd like to thank Fairfax Hackley. Fairfax Hackley was an integral part. He was the one who connected us. So thanks, Hack, for that. But he was a guy who was really, really a figurehead in the IFBB before my time. So I kind of had a template and a model to kind of look to what I wanted to do when he moved on. So I had a lot of great opportunities to meet amazing folks and amazing people, to travel around the world with Ben Weider. But one of the stories that really I'm reminded about often with Ben was he was such a sports diplomat. Like no matter where we were in the world, no matter who we were able to meet, he always had a nice word for them. He would compliment them, like, that's a nice tie you have on, or he would say something about their families, because you open that door of friendship first. There's so many adversarial relationships now, but sometimes a smile and a handshake can really help do wonders, And I remember sitting at a competition with him one day, and we were talking about how many of these he had seen, how many bodybuilding competitions he had been to before. And I made the mistake of calling it a show. So he puts his hand on my hand and goes, "Rob, it's not a show. It's a competition. A show, the Rockettes. A show is on Broadway. A show is predetermined. However, a competition is fought out between competitors, and we should respect them by calling it a competition, not a show." So from then on, I was trying to share with as many people as possible that these aren't shows, these are competitions. And it's one of the things when I share that with people, they like, wow, that makes sense. People sometimes call it a show, but he just wanted to make sure that we respect the athletes. And it's always remarkable that he had saw thousands of these.
Oh yeah.
But the respect of the athlete was paramount to him.
I love that. Do you have any presently favorite bodybuilders, or have in all the things that you have seen, did you have one favorite bodybuilder in general, or maybe somebody now and then? Who is your favorite bodybuilder?
I like all of them because they're friends now. But I think for many of us, it starts with Arnold. Arnold, I read his book when I was 12, 13 years old, and then having the chance to meet him a number of times. And Also, he was the former chairman of the President's Council of Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. So now to serve on that council is pretty cool. Lee Haney is the gentleman. He is the template for all of us to model and follow after because he's just so awesome. And also, he was the chairman of the President's Council. So I'm friendly. I love Dexter Jackson. He's a great guy whose daughter is an Air Force Academy graduate, and she's currently serving. I guess any top bodybuilder for the last 15 years, I know them well and have great experiences with them. So I'm a fan of all of them.
Well, what's great about that, let me ask you this, because you've kind of seen a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the future of bodybuilding? And do you have any opinions of things that need to change to make it better, to get it back into the public eye? What's your opinion on the future as far as bodybuilding goes?
Well, I guess it depends because they've had great crowds recently. The last few years, they're sold out. So they're doing something right. But to get it mainstream, how mainstream do you want it? I mean, right now, bodybuilding is practiced in every military base, most hotels, fire stations, police stations. When the Weeder started this back in the 40s, this was not possible. This was not even thought about. It was actually thought about not to do these things. So many people are bodybuilders. The 85-year-old woman who's doing powerlifting things in the gym, she's a bodybuilder. If you're talking about competitions, I'm not ingrained that much anymore with it to really see how many changes have to be made. I'm sure there are some changes that have to be made, but I'm just a fan of what it does for how it makes you feel and what the long-term repercussions of lifting are, which is improved mobility, lower blood pressure, self-esteem. It shows you dedication and discipline. But what I really like about it is the inclusion part of it. Bodybuilders are inclusive from people from all walks of life, from black and white and straight and gay and Asian and whatever. You're included because you're a bodybuilder. We have something in common. So when the world is having all these issues, I love going to the gym because in that gym is the United Nations of bodybuilders. They do all these things together and they don't look at you as different. They look at you as, can you spot me? You got some great tips. And what do you eat? That's what's really great about bodybuilding.
That's a fantastic answer. And, I always tell people, you will get far more from lifting weights. You get far more return than anything you put into it. It gives back so much, so much, so much. And there really is that camaraderie of those that, pay the price in the gym. There's something about that, sweating it out under heavy squats, till you puke. There's something about that. And I was just saying, as far as the future of bodybuilding, I just think it's interesting how it has evolved because we go from the guys, Arnold had a different kind of athletic physique to now guys are just huge, like just freaky. And so I would just think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if people are going to try and pursue more the athletic physique or still just saying, how big can we get? I mean, I like it all. I mean, I like the guys from Dorian Yates to, I've liked everybody. I just think it's interesting how it's evolved that now it's just so massive. How do they judge and what's this going to look like and what's going to be the standard in the future?
But there are so many different categories, so you can find a category that fits what you like. So that's another great opportunity that, the Weeders laid the groundwork for, because who would have thought of bodybuilders or fitness advocates making a living from this? I mean, now there are so many supplement companies. And at one time, the Weeder family was responsible for selling 25% of all the protein powder, vitamins, and supplements in the world. So they were really the first to really push this mainstream because back at that time, doctors were saying, you don't need this, just eat well. And they just kept pushing forward. Now they had some hiccups that they had to overcome, but they were able to, I guess, expose us to the possibilities because there's a German saying that for the person who has their health, they have but one dream, or the person who doesn't have their health has one dream, and that's to get their health. So COVID has shown us the importance of being physically fit. It has showed us how important it is for us to be active and to eat properly and be hydrated and sleep well. So, I've read a stat that about 92% of the folks who've passed away, unfortunately, from COVID had some comorbidity prior to. I would think going forward, hopefully the country gets behind the positive aspects of nutrition and health, working out, physical activity. and tells us we need to get better, we need to get fitter, we need to move. And next month
Yeah.
is National Physical Fitness and Sports Month. So it's a perfect way and perfect opportunity to highlight that message and bring more awareness to the importance of physical fitness.
Yeah, getting out, I still think getting to the gym is like one of your biggest defenses against COVID. I really do.
I
I
agree.
mean, you're going to build your immune system. I really want, this was really cool. Can you tell people who don't know, tell us about Rolling Thunder? I think this is such an incredible thing. Can you share with us about that?
Sure. So Rolling Thunder, the demonstration run, is the world's largest one-day event with about 1.5 million folks from all walks of life. Again, probably the biggest diverse crowd in the world, where we recognize, remember, and honor the 83,000 men who never came home from war. So they're called prisoners of war missing in action. About 1988, four guys, Vietnam vets, said, we won't forget them. So they decided to start a demonstration run. And that was going to be held in Washington, D.C. Started with about 2,500 bikes. They've grown and grown and grown to where we now have about 500,000 bikes. And you will see more arrests at a Washington Redskin football, the Washington football team game than you will at Rolling Thunder, because folks do not allow mess to happen there. Conflicts, people have conflict, but they don't allow it to take away from the purpose of us getting together. So you have active duty, retired veterans coming together and saying, if it wasn't for these men, we would not live, men and women, but we would not have the country we have, because again, freedom is not free. There has to be a price paid. And those people volunteered for the most part to say, I'm going to stick up and defend our country. So we can't forget them.
Yeah, I encourage people to look up and see some of the pictures of it. I mean, it's incredible. And can you share with us a little bit about Redcon1?
So Redcon1 Foundation. So Redcon1 is the company started by Aaron Singerman. It's the world's fastest growing supplement company. And he has a love and he just appreciates the military so much. His grandfather served during World War II. So Aaron was donating money to different military foundations and charities. And he said to me, I would like to create my own, and would you be interested in helping me out? And I thought, absolutely. So he made me the president of the Redcon1 Foundation. And what we do is we find military families who need a hand up, who might need some financial assistance, and we give them grants. So we give about $10,000 per month to a military family who makes a submission to us, and we provide them money so that they can take away the stress in their lives. We're not going to cure everything, but sometimes it's the immediate stress. They need food, they need cars fixed, they need mortgage payments. So we want to make sure that for all they have done for our country, we want to give back to them. And it's really nice to say thank you for your service, but Aaron wanted to go above that and show his appreciation for those who serve.
It's so cool to see. I know people have heard of Redcom supplements, but to see what people are doing with what they have. And that's what I would say, is that everybody has something that they can do. And this gets into my next question, because this has really been something I think about often. My uncle was a Vietnam veteran, and I think about this so often. What can our listeners do to show support for our military? What are some practical ways? I guess what I'm saying is, just saying thank you doesn't really seem like, it's something, but what are some practical ways people can help to support our military, especially guys that have come back and are having, struggling with PSTD, all this stuff, or PTSD, I should say. How do we practically help and show support for those who serve us?
Great question. Well, first of all, saying thank you. When you see a man or a woman with a cap on, especially women, because they're so humble about their service, like often a woman just told me the other day about, she parked in a spot that said reserved for military. And when she got out of her car, an elderly man said, please thank your husband for serving our country. She says, I am the person who served. My husband was the spouse. He was a dependent. So he was a little bit shocked, but he did thank her. I think if you have a company, if you know of opportunities, we're going to retire eventually. Those who serve our country, they're not going to all retire. Some will get out after 4 years, some after 2, some after 30. But if you have an opportunity at a company or at a business and you're looking for new employees, you will not find a more dedicated, hardworking group of folks to work for your business. They have drive, they have dedication, they have to think quickly on their feet, they have these interpersonal skills, but they also want to look for a chance to succeed. So, saying thank you for your service is great, but show me your trade, show me an opportunity, or provide an opportunity for me for training and maybe an employment, and let me show you what I can do, because they do need great jobs. And after serving and sacrificing so much, I think any opportunity provided to them, they would greatly appreciate it. And they normally have a great network of other veterans who can come to your company. And I've heard from time to time, people who work with a lot of veterans sometimes say, why do you have to work so hard? It's 5 o'clock, leave. Well, most veterans, they don't stop till their mission is complete. And the mission is not like it used to be, the old kind of missions, but your mission today is, I need to clear my in basket. Now, if it takes me exactly to 5, that's great. But if I have to work to 6:30 or 7, I'm going to do that too, because that's who I am. So military folks, in general, they really want to, it's for their pride. They want to make you look good too, because you've hired them, but they're so proud of what they do and who they are. So if there's an opportunity for your company, give a vet a shot.
I love that, because one of the things that's hard is that people forget. I remember after 9/11, people were having services, everybody had the flags out, and just people forget. And I just think so many times we need to continue to bring our military stories before people. And I love that you said earlier, freedom isn't free. All the stuff that's going on with different individuals, the right that you have to protest or to do any of those things is because somebody is fighting for that right. We
Right.
live in the greatest country in the entire world, and it's because somebody is paying the price for us to live here. And so, anybody that's listening today, do something, thank a vet, and most of all, don't ever forget. Do not forget. Share their stories. I just love that. Hire them. This is great, great advice. Well, let me ask you, what's next for Rob Wilkins? I mean, you've done it all. What's next for you?
I haven't done anything yet. I'm just getting started.
Just getting rolling.
I think the world has so many possibilities and so many opportunities. And for me, to tell my son to work hard, he has to see it first. It's hard to see or hard to be what you can't see. So if he sees his dad pushing it, when I'm telling him to push it, he was like, that's what we do in this family. We work hard, we do things. But also he has to give back to society. And we want to make sure that we give opportunities to folks. So for example, right now we're working on finding ways to raise awareness of the kids who don't have sport equipment. So there are organizations out there who say, we will gather all this equipment and we find under-resourced communities to provide it to, because kids need to get outside and be back on these fields. As soon as it's safe again, for some communities, they're playing sports right now. Like my son plays travel football and basketball. So he's been playing. But it's not the sport that only helps him. It's the dedication again, and it's the discipline, and it's this brotherhood. They belong to something bigger than themselves. They belong to a team. So I think with all this, so many folks have been isolated. They need that human contact. They need to hear silly jokes that 14-year-old boys tell and ribbing each other. But they also need to fail a little bit, because now you got somebody to pick you up. Hey, you dropped the ball, you missed a shot, but I got you. You're still part of this team. So right now we're working with the community to get baseball bats and gloves and balls and find those inner city and rural areas that need our support, because we're fortunate that we can help them, but you never know. One day you're the helper and one day you might need the help. So you just want to do the best you can and make sure that people, when they think of your name, they're smiling and thinking that's a contributor, as opposed to a person who's bringing me headache and heartache,
Oh, man, love that. Well, let me ask you this. Where can people go to find out more about you, the organizations that you work with, the foundation, and is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I think, like you mentioned earlier, we have a great country. I've been able to travel to over 40 countries, and there's nothing like America. Where 2 out of our last 5 presidents didn't have a dad, and they still were able to succeed and become the president of the United States. The highest office. It's not about politics. It's about that office, that you represent this amazing country. And, if you're born in certain countries, whatever system you're born into, you cannot escape that system. In America, through hard work, dedication, luck, mentorship, you can achieve think of Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world. 25 years ago, he was probably in his garage sorting out books. And now he's doing amazing things because of the opportunities that America presents to him. So while we're facing some difficult times right now, the sun is going to shine and the clouds will move away, and keep working hard, keep trying to be a good person, help those who might need help. And I guess for me, I'm just going to keep pushing. That's all I know how to do.
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to thank our guest, Rob Wilkins, today for investing in all of our listeners, the encouragement, the wisdom that's been passed down today. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for all you're doing and spreading so much great information and knowledge around the world. We need more positive people doing great things. And so we appreciate you and your staff who've been excellent to work with. I appreciate them all. And again, thanks to Fairfax Hackley for making this connection. I look forward to talking to you again in the near future.